Welcome to day 2 of our webinar series, and welcome back to all those familiar names, and thank you for those new ones who are joining us today. We are going to start very shortly. I still see quite a few people strolling in, and I can introduce my colleagues who are here with me this morning. We have our host, Jane. And then we also have Yvonne, who is our fellow speech therapist in the company. Maybe they can show their faces. Yay, so that's Jane. And then there's Yvonne. Okay. Today's topic is on 3 tips to help your child's language development today. Okay, so it's something that you can use today right after the webinar. I hope you all have a good time learning, and send in your questions in the Q&A box. And so enjoy the presentation.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to day 2 of our webinar series, Talk With Me. I'm Yvonne, a speech therapist with Somerset. Hello, and I'll be your presenter for today. This is day 2 of our 4-day webinar series. This is in conjunction with our summerversary celebrations of our services. So we are very, very happy to have you here with us. Now, today's topic is 3 tips to help my child's language development today. So let's get started. So today we'll have to go through the 6 stages of language development. So if we want to help our child's language development, we do have to figure out which stage they are at. So we'll introduce 6 stages of language development to you, and then we'll move on quickly to our 3 tips that you can use today. All right, and then at the end we will leave about 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes for question and answers. So if you have already sent in your questions during the registration, thank you. If you haven't, don't worry, you can still send them in through the chat and the Q&A box below. We will be looking at them and trying to take them down, and hopefully we can answer them today. All right. So let's get started. What is language? We want to talk about language development. What are we developing actually? So language is a tool used by anybody to communicate with one another. So communication is this symbol and this picture you see over here. When a message is sent from one person to the other, communication has occurred. Language is how we make this communication happen. So it can be broken down into verbal language or non-verbal language. So verbal is essentially anything that is spoken, and non-verbal language is essentially anything that is not spoken. So gestures, written language, sign language, any other form of AAC also. So another way of breaking down language is also under expressive and receptive. So expressive means the use of language, and receptive means understanding of language. Now, a lot of parents do come to me and they say, hey, my child, she's only saying this, she's only saying that, she's not saying a lot. And oftentimes we forget that language is also inclusive of the understanding part of it. So if you look at the language development pyramid here, we do have the pre-linguistic skills, which my colleague Jane went through with you yesterday. And then today what we'll be covering is language development. So not just the usage of it, but also the understanding of language. And until these foundations are built, we can't talk about speech yet. So as we go through the 6 stages of language development, you will see me talk about what a child will be using and also what a child will be understanding at that particular stage, all right? So do take note of not just the expressive, also what they can understand, okay? So these are the 6 stages of language development that we're talking about. We have the discoverer stage from about birth to 8 months. We do have the communicator stage, which is 8 to 13 months. We have the first word user stage, which is about 1 to 1.5 years. We also have the combiner stage, which is about 1.5 to 2-year-olds. We have early sentence users from 2 to 3-year-olds. And we have the late sentence user, which is around 4 to 5-year-olds. So a disclaimer here, we didn't come up with these nice names. It was from this program called Learning Language and Loving It. It's from the Hannon Center. We are adopting their stages as well as we describe it, okay? So the first stage is discovery stage. Now this is where your baby is so cute. All they're doing is lying there and looking around what's going on. At this stage, your baby is interested in the environment. So they are looking around, seeing what's going on, but not so much intentional communication. So remember what we said about communication early on. So communication is when a message is being sent from one person to another person. That's when communication happens. Now at this stage, they may be sending messages out. They are crying, maybe a lot, laughing a lot. But this communication tends to be more non-intentional in nature. So it may be more physiological. So they may not be feeling well, they're feeling hungry, their diaper needs to be changed. So this communication is happening and they are crying because of these physiological reactions. Not so much of, I want to cry so that mommy will come. So it's not intentional in that sense. A lot more is led by the adult. So when the interaction happens, that's where the adults go and say, hello, baby. And you start to look at, oh, cutie pie, what is this? What is that? So the adult is the one starting the interaction with that child. The child is simply just observing and looking at, what's happening here? Oh, there's an interesting adult here. And at this point, they are able to understand your voices. They can start to differentiate mommy's voice, daddy's voice, different people's voice. They can understand tone. So if you go, no, not like that, they can understand an angry tone versus, oh, look at that. They can understand the difference in that tone. They can understand social turn taking, like you look at you and they pause, and look it back, and look at you again. So they're able to understand the basics of it, but not so much words. Maybe at the end of this stage, they can start to understand their names, because think about it, as the adult goes to them, most of the time they're saying, hello Josh, hello Joshie. And they start to hear their name over and over again, and they may start to respond to their own name, but not so much the words that you're saying. All right. In terms of the use of language at this stage, they are more using eye gaze. They may be smiling a lot, crying a lot. Maybe vocal play, cooing comes in around quite early, and then after that it develops into babbling, where it's more vocal plays. And at this stage, my concern for language development will only come if they are not responding to things in the environment, because they are supposed to be discoverers. They're supposed to be discovering what's going on in my environment. So if there's a loud sound or bright light and they're not looking or they're not listening out, then that is where I might want to start to say, hey, let's go to the ENT and get this checked out. All right. Now, after the discovery stage, remember we said that the communication there is not as intentional. We come on to the communicator stage, and this is where they start to communicate more intentionally with a purpose. So here, they really enjoy the social interaction. They want you to play with them a lot. They understand a lot more words now. They understand familiar words and directions. So things that they often hear, like mommy or car or no. They start to understand these basic commonly used words in their environment. And then they start to use more non-verbal. Remember, we made the distinction in language. There is verbal language and there's also non-verbal language. So at this stage, they're communicating mostly with the non-verbals, like their eye gaze, their gestures, their expressions, their pointing, a lot more. So a lot more of the non-verbal is used here. In terms of the speech output, they're using more jargon. And first words will start to appear near the end of this stage. So jargon is essentially things that sounds like words, but are actually not words. You're like, They may say, and we're like, what's that? What's that? And they are pointing to maybe a ball. And like, no, that's not what a ball is, but they're using a word that sounds like it, but not exactly the exact form of it yet. Because they're still working on that system. And then at the end of this stage, you will hear the first words start to appear. So this is the communicator stage, mostly characterized by intentional communication and mostly done by non-verbal means. So at the end of that stage, first words start to appear. Stage 3 is when they are using their words. First words come up here. Their vocabulary is approximately around 50 already, so that characterizes this stage where they're using words. They can understand a lot more familiar objects, a lot more familiar people. They start to understand more familiar concepts like body parts that they hear often. They can start to understand simple questions already, yes, no questions, what questions, where questions for things that are in their environment and that they are constantly being exposed to. So I hope you can see that continuum of they're discovering and then they're slowly starting to understand more and more of what they can hear often, and it grows from there. And what they're using here is, as we said already, around 50 vocabulary words. They will overextend their words. So what I mean by overextend is they may look at a kitty cat and they're like, kitty. And then they see a dog and they say, kitty. And then they see a picture of a cow and they may go, kitty. Because at this stage, maybe anything that has 4 legs and a body with a tail is a kitty to them, because the first time they learned that, it was kitty. So they may be overextending words a little bit here, but that's perfectly normal, and it does happen when they are learning and using their first words at this stage. All right. They are also starting to imitate more sounds and words. So imitation is a very important skill, as you have learned in our first webinar yesterday. Imitating sounds and words is the key to learning language. So I must want to imitate the sound that you make. When I point to a cow and I say kitty, then my mommy is going to come and tell me, no, that's a cow. So I'm going to look at you and I'm going to try and say, oh, cow, or moo, the sound that the cow makes. So I'm trying to imitate a lot, and that's how I learn and grow more. So at this stage, we want to look at whether they are imitating what you're trying to say. Okay? And we move on to combiner stage. So they have the words now. Now we start to put those words together. And at this combiner stage is characterized by where they have 2 word phrases together. So what they can understand is exponentially growing again. They keep increasing the size of their vocabulary. They are able to understand things, simple directions without cues already. So at this stage, I make a difference between understanding directions with cues and without cues. So with cues is when you're understanding it using the non-verbals as well, or using context. The idea of, when I'm at the shoe rack and mom says, put on the shoe, it may be quite obvious to me. Even if I don't understand put on the shoe, I know I'm at the shoe rack, I'm most likely going to be putting on my shoe. Now, if I'm standing elsewhere and mommy says take the shoe, and I know how to go to the shoe rack to get my shoe, that shows that I understand shoe, because I'm understanding just the word, not based on the context, not based on the gestures. So this tells me understanding of words has increased here. And the use, again, 2 word phrases, and this is where you see the huge vocabulary spurt. It grows so much, and it can grow all the way up to 200 words or more. And this is where I will start to be concerned if my child is not using even 25 words, a range of 25 different words, if their age range is around 1.5 to 2 years old. So I might start to want to monitor a little bit more and start doing a little bit more of my language tips later, where I'll be sharing with you. So this is the combiner stage, all right? And then we have the next stage, which is the early sentence user. So remember, we have the first word stage, so discovering the environment, and then we have communicators who are communicating using non-verbals. Then you use 1 word, then you go to combiner, you use 2 words. So now at early sentence, I'm using 5-word sentences already. So combining more and more words together. And so at 5-word sentences, the concepts are also growing. I'm understanding things like colors. I'm being able to understand size, big, small, cold, hot, different concepts, location, in, on, under, pronouns. And this is where you see, and it will be reflected in my use as well. So you can see my vocabulary range will start to increase. It's not just labeling things, not just going apple, banana. It's not just words that have names, but we have the different adjectives, the describing words come in here as well. So the range increases. This is where you have the negation concept, where you have not. So often people call this a terrible two, so the teenagers, because they start to realize, oh, I can reject things. I can say, no, not blue, not mama. They can start to say no. Negation comes in. And they can also understand more and more ideas linking together. So that's why you have 2-step directions. Not just take the bag, you can take the bag and put in the bin. Take the bottle and give to mama. So more than just one idea, the idea links are building up as well. And questions are expanding as well, not just the who, what, or where questions. They're starting to understand a little bit more abstract things like why. Why is this happening? Why the baby fall down? Why no more milk? They are also starting to enjoy simple stories at this stage because they are able to add on more concepts together. And you see how it adds on. When you're able to understand bigger and longer links of concepts, then you can start to understand stories, because stories are one concept after another and they are linked together. And that's where you can see their turn taking more in conversations. So the conversation is not just one turn, I say something, you say something, and the end of conversation. It can go on longer. And then simple stories may start to emerge. So here it may be a case of where their stories may be more of like, in the beginning, the end, because that is the story that format that they commonly hear with the simple stories. So it's okay, because they're just beginning to learn that, and they're reflecting what they're understanding through what they're saying as well. Remember, understanding is the foundation of it. So what I understand, I will show what I use. So after the early sentence user, we go on to the late sentence user. So here, the vocabulary use is through the roof. They can use 5,000 different words already, and their understanding is at adult level. So you will realize that you don't really need to simplify your words or your sentences that much for them anymore. They seem to be able to understand typical adult level sentences. And you can see that reflected in their use of more complex sentences as well. However, what happens if, maybe, we are not sure. So they can use phrasal verbs as well. You start seeing a lot more complex sentences, fewer grammatical errors start to come out. Then this is age 4, is where the time concept starts to mature in them, and sequencing and stories, as you start to practice and expose them to stories in the earlier stage. Now this is where it starts to build up, and they start to understand the sequence of what happens first, what happens next, something happens later. There's a concept of time that gets built up at this stage. And then you see them understanding when, or asking when questions. They start to understand conditionals. If this happens, that may happen. If this doesn't happen, that's not going to happen. They will start to use simple reasoning. Why and because something. So you can see it as well in their use. They will talk about the past, the present, the future, and this will start to link them to be more developed narratives or stories. All right. So we have talked about the discoverer, where they are just discovering what's happening in my environment. We've talked about communicators, so now they're not just discovering, but they have discovered there are people in my environment that I want to talk to. And it's you, and I want to talk to you. And at this stage, I'm mostly using non-verbals. And then after non-verbals, my verbals start to kick in. My vocal system is ready, and I can say my first words. After using single words, I'm now going to put them together and say 2 words, 3 words, and then I become an early sentence user, where I grow in so much in my concepts at this stage. I'm learning so many new concepts, ideas, and I put them together to form more and more longer and longer sentences. And then at the late sentence user stage, I'm adding my sentences together and forming simple short stories with the concept of time. I can start sequencing them in a logical manner. So this is the stages of language development. And I'll just a note about ages at this point. I have to make this disclaimer that, we put here, and we happily put the ages. I know a lot of you will have been thinking in your mind already, calculated, oh, my child is 2 to 3 years old, they are still at first word, oh no, panic stage. Let's not panic yet. Let's remember that each child develops differently, okay? Milestone ages that we mentioned are a general guideline. It is a rough indication of when most of the population demonstrates this skill. So I emphasize most of the population. It is not everyone in the population will demonstrate at this age. It is a rough guideline. It is not meant for diagnosis, so don't say, oh, my child is definitely the delay in language because they are not meeting these milestones here. there is so much more that is required before we can make a diagnosis. So it's definitely not meant for a diagnosis. What it is meant for, however, is for us to look at what is the next stage that we want to look at when we want to develop their language. So for example, if you're telling me, oh, my child is 3 years old, but he's using only one word, then let's look at using 2 words together. Let's not push and insist that they use short phrases if all they're using is single words and some maybe gestures most of the time. So it's for us to set realistic standards and targets of what's the next stage we want to move our child up in terms of their language development. We cannot come to a child who is at a stage of a communicator and expect them to use late sentence user level of language just because their age is there. We look at their stage of language development, not the age, all right? So be observant. That's, not to say that you throw out all the milestones, but be observant and monitor your child if they are not up to the ages that we have mentioned, and give them a 3-month period. Give or take 3 months from those ages that you see there, and monitor them. And if you have any doubt at any time, just call in your speech therapist and we can always arrange for an assessment to get a more thorough diagnosis and see if there is a need for language intervention. All right? So please take note, every child develops differently, all right? So now we are all experts at our stages of language development. We know which stage our child is at. Let's go on to our tips. Finally, we're here for the tips. What can I do to move my child up to the next stage, or what can I do to help them develop better? So the first tip we have for today is T. Now, what is T? Can you look at this person here, in the center here, and see how would you feel if you are in his position right now? So constantly being asked so many questions. Do you want more? Is there a bus? Where is she going? What happened in school today? How many is this? How many is that? What is this color? What does the duck say? What does the cat say? What does the dog say? What does the cow say? Who is that? Who is this? Who is that? Who is that? Oh, and constantly all day long you're getting asked so many questions. How would you feel? I wouldn't feel very good. I would feel like I'm being interrogated, or I'm in like a testing situation. I'm sitting for an exam. All I get is questions, which I have to answer. So it's not a very nice situation to be in. And now let's look at these questions and think honestly, how many of these questions have you asked your child recently? I have to admit, I have asked these questions as well. But let's take note that when we want to help a child develop language, we don't want to be bombarding them with so many questions, one after another, right? And this is what is our first tip, which is drop the test and have some tea. So look at this picture here. This is a tea time situation. When you think of tea, you're thinking of being relaxed. I'm relaxed, I'm having fun. And that is when children learn the best, when they are not stressed out, when they are having fun, when they are in a relaxed stage, when they are playing. So look at this child. She's playing, and she's playing pretend tea with her father, and she's imitating what he's doing. And imitation is how we learn. So when a child learns through imitation, we must give them things to imitate. So drop our test. Don't ask them to imitate asking questions. We want them to imitate the language models that we have. So give them language models by using T. And T stands for talk. Talk about what you're doing. Talk about what your child is doing. Expand by adding extra words or phrases to what your child says. And extend the idea by adding related comments to what your child has said. All right? So let's go to the first T. Talk about what you're doing. Talk about what your child is doing. This is especially useful if your child is in the discoverer, communicator, first word user, or combiner stage. All right? Imagine this situation. Your child is here listening, and you are making cupcakes. They see you holding a cupcake. They want to eat the cupcake. They see that you want to eat the cupcake too. And you go, are you hungry? Do you want some cupcake? That's what they hear. And what is coming out potentially, if they had the means to say, they would say, oh, it's a question. So it's a yes, no question. I must say yes or no. And this is, are you hungry? Yes. Do you want some cupcake? Yes. And so the output we are encouraging in this situation is simply yes. If we change it around and give them language models instead, I'm hungry, and then they see you say, I want a cupcake, and then you take the cupcake. Here they're seeing the input of you visually taking the cupcake and you saying, I'm hungry, I want a cupcake. And then they are thinking, oh, the next time I'm in this situation, I can say, I'm hungry, I want a cupcake. Because they're hearing the question as not a question anymore, as a model. They see what you're doing and they copy. They're not stressed out with a question that they have to answer, yes. They're relaxed and they say, oh, I can say that too. All right. So this is a wonderful interaction, a mother and a child doing amazing talk. All right. So I got this on YouTube. You can feel free to go there and check out the rest of it.
And these are what else is in there? There's the cow milk. Cow milk. Are you trying to open?
Milk.
Open the milk.
Open.
Oh, it will not open.
Oh, not open.
Mommy drinks. Go. Penelope drink.
Opposite child, Penelope drink.
Go.
And what she's doing.
Strawberries and milk. Oh, I hear that. The Velcro sticks to the carpet. Stick. Pull. Oh, thank you.
Oh, she's grabbing
See something cool?
what is doing and what she is doing. Well, I won't play the rest of the video. Please feel free to check it out on YouTube by this user D Chapman. She's doing amazing job with her girl. And talking, notice the entire interaction. She didn't ask her anything. She went, cow's milk, milk open, go. Oh, stick, pull. Nothing about what is this, what is that, is this a fruit, is that a drink, do you want to drink? None of those questions are coming out. It's just pure language stimulation with talking. All right. So the next part that we can do to model language is expansion by adding extra words or phrases to what your child has said. So this is exceptionally useful is if your child is in the first words user stage, the combiner stage, or the early sentence user stage. All right. So for example, the child has said cupcake. Now, how do we expand it? We can expand it by using names. So chocolate cupcake, strawberry cupcake. We can expand it by using words that describe. So I know this is a favorite. We go the color of the cupcake, pink cupcake, blue cupcake, brown cupcake, big cupcake, small cupcake, hot cupcake, cold cupcake. We can talk about the action words. Oh, this is very important. Talk about what you do with the cupcake. You eat the cupcake, keep the cupcake, spread the cupcake, give the cupcake to me. We can talk about feeling words as well. I like the cupcake, yummy cupcake. Talk about location words. Where is the cupcake? In the box, on the table, in my mouth. We can talk about social words with it. You can add on to cupcake by saying, cupcake for you, happy birthday. Words that express surprise, express belonging. So you can say, my cupcake, your cupcake, daddy's cupcake, mommy's cupcake, nobody's cupcake. Can talk about question words. So, oh, whose cupcake is this? Where is the cupcake? Oh, it's here. So even if I'm using cupcake or using cupcakes, using question words here, I'm not asking, expecting an answer. I'm giving a model of what I can ask about it. And then I'm going, oh, it's here. So where is the cupcake? Oh, it's on the table. Oh, whose cupcake is this? It's mine. All right. So you can expand and still not have a test. All right. So you can refer to this. This is called the language wheel. It is again another model used from the Hannon program. It's from the It Takes Two to Talk program. So it is a wonderful model that you can look at. It's called the language wheel to see, am I using a range of words when I'm expanding my child's language? Because there's no point we just keep expanding the names and names and names. A child's vocabulary needs to have both description words, action words, all the feeling words, location words, social words, all the range of these words, not just names of them. Alright? So use this to expand a child's language. We can also extend a child's language. So you're saying, oh, my child's actually already saying quite complete sentence. Simple short sentences may be complete already. So if your child is in the first word user, combiner, early sentence user, or late sentence user stage, you can do extension by adding related comments to what your child has said. So for example, if your child has already said, oh, I make a cupcake, you can extend the idea by saying, oh, and it was easy to make. It looks delicious, you know. I make a cupcake. Oh, it smells wonderful. Or I make a cupcake. Yes, and yesterday we made brownies. So you can add on to the idea to build the topic and build that conversational flow so that it doesn't just stop there at one idea. You're helping your child build on and let them know you can build on different ideas to it and keep that story building. Because at the end of the day, remember, our late sentence user, the end goal, we want to build narratives, stories, longer and longer chunks of language, right? So we show them how it's done. So remember, the first tip, the top tip we have for you is model language for them. Don't ask them tons and tons of questions. Make language learning relaxing and fun and model it. Talk to them, expand by adding a word, and extend the idea by adding a comment. All right? And that brings us to our second tip. Wait. Now you're thinking, what? I still have to wait? I've waited so long already. Now, that is exactly what our second tip is. Wait. Now look at this video, and it's a role play video, but I would like you to notice what is the child focused on and what is the adult focused on in this particular segment.
Like a snake. You see it? It's an S. So we have S and B. Look here. Oh, I love this one. N.
Okay, so at this stage, you can see they're not really focusing on the same thing. The child is trying to play with the blocks, trying to play with the train, and the adult is trying to get him to focus on the blocks and trying to say S sound, sound. Both are valid, and you know, the child may have been interested with the blocks, that's why it's on the table, but they're not paying attention to the same thing. And at this point, I would think it's more beneficial if the adult was giving him language models to what the child is actually focusing on. And that's why we wait. One of the reasons we wait is so that we can observe what our child is interested in. So for the child may have been interested in the blocks just before the video was started, but then you can see they have shifted to the train already and they are focusing actually on the train. So when you wait, you will realize that, oh, they have changed their focus and they are now actually interested in the train. So that's where you give the team the language models accordingly. So here the child is playing with Lego blocks, but then now he's playing with the people on the Lego blocks. And that's where you are teaching according to the people, not according to maybe build the tree, build the house, build the roof. You're talking about, oh, the people are jumping here on top. And here the baby and the child they are drawing something perhaps. They may have been playing paint, different colors. So at this stage, the mother may have been giving a lot of language model for blue, red, yellow. But if you're looking at what the child is looking at now, he's holding a brush. So I wait before I say the next word or say, oh, let's draw something. Oh, the child is paying attention to the brush. I'm going to give some language model about the brush. The brush is hard. Oh, big brush. Oh, interesting. The brush fingers is holding the brush. You can give any language model to what they're paying attention to. At this stage, if the child is looking at the brush and you're going, okay, let's draw, the child, like, hey, I'm still looking at that. And then the language model and what they're doing doesn't match. Right? So waiting also provides your child a chance to take a turn. So if all the time I'm saying things, I'm going, okay, let's go here, let's go there. This is a cup. This is my apple. You eat the apple, open the box, put put the apple in the box. The child has no chance to say anything. They don't need to say anything. So waiting can provide my child a chance to take a turn in the conversation. And waiting also creates opportunities for them. So if I do everything for you and I don't wait for you to take a turn, or I don't wait for you to ask me to do it for you, then there's no need for you to say anything. So if your child wants the next spoon of food and they don't need to ask for it, then of course they don't learn to ask, I want more. If you wait in that situation, they may then say something. So this is an interaction between the therapist and the child, and you will see that the child has indicated, and it's very obvious, we can tell the child wants the ball. But the therapist waits, and until the child says the word, then she gives the ball.
Oh, want ball?
Want ball? The child is already standing up and moving towards the ball. At this stage, any parent who is sensitive enough would know, oh, my child wants the ball. Here's the ball for you. But this is where we must stop and wait. I've given you the language model, ball, and I know my child wants it, so I wait until the child says, until the child says the word.
Oh, want ball?
And she waits.
Ball, good job.
So
Ball,
you're creating opportunity. And then after they go in, you can continue to model language. So waiting is giving that chance, that opportunity for your child to take a turn as well. So how do you wait? How am I supposed to do this, Miss Yvonne? If this is the first time you're going to try waiting, I suggest you start counting to 10 in your head. Now, don't worry, it doesn't mean you always have to have a 10-second pause and delay in everything you do. But if this is the first time, I would suggest really consciously think about counting to 10 in your head, because it's something that you're not used to. Slowly, you will realize what is the appropriate time that you need to pause for your child to take their turn. But at this stage, I would say count to 10 and lean forward and look at your child. So why do we lean forward and look at your child expectantly? Because we are now using our non-verbals to tell your child, I'm waiting for you to say something. It's not just, okay, I'm just going to wait and drift off. And then your child will say, okay, I don't know what just happened. And they drift off as well. So give your child a chance to realize, oh, I'm supposed to say something. And give yourself the leeway of about 10 seconds to practice waiting and just pausing and giving them the time to process and take their turn. So you can wait in everyday play. Here you will see in the beginning, the adult doesn't wait very long. And the baby just continues looking down, waiting to be tickled. And when the adult waits just a little bit longer, you see that magical moment where the child looks up and says, hey, what happened there? Tickle. She's looking down. And he stops for a while, and the adult comes back, but she doesn't really say anything, and he stops for a longer time this time. Comes out and she says, hey, what happened there? And that's what happened when you wait. And notice the adult there didn't need to wait for 10 seconds because they roughly know, oh, I wait long enough, the child said something already, so okay, my turn to go back in. So you can wait in everyday routines as well, and again, it doesn't need to be so long. So after a while, the child will know you will wait until they say something, then they will get what they want. So here the child is getting his biscuit opened, and he's getting the door open as well, and he has to say open. And mother doesn't help him to open it until he says it. All right?
Okay.
Open his
Okay, what do you say?
Open his
감해주세요. Okay, say thank you.
Open.
Okay, open. Yeah.
Open, then holding it doesn't get. So a lot of the time, when you see our children holding the door handle, we go, okay, straight away we open it for them. Then they don't need to say anything. So here the mommy is doing an excellent job. You have to say open, then I will open it for you. And this is probably a routine already. They learn that every time I come here, I do have to say open. And the child is already ready. At the beginning, he's already going open, open, open. So when we wait and we don't give them everything immediately, it creates the opportunity where they can come and say, hey, you know, I need to say something, and I will get it when I say something. So that's our second tip for today. So first is T, give a lot of good language models. And then second tip is wait. Create the opportunity for your child. Give them that turn. Take note of what they're looking at. And then the third one is show. Show them what you mean. All right. So you can show them what you mean by demonstrating. So I can say that all day long, go wash your hand, wash your hand. But if I don't demonstrate what wash your hand means, they may not know what it means. If I say, listen, oh, put the blocks to your ear, listen, listen, they will not know. But if I show them, they will learn it easily. If I say, jump in the box, they may not know until you show me, jump in the box, and they will, oh, this is in the box. And they get it. And showing will lead them to understand the concept so much easier. Use objects to show as well. You can use objects and pictures to show what you mean. So when I say tomato, tomato, show them the tomato. See the mother here, she's holding the tomato. Oh, tomato here. Elbow, don't just say my elbow hurts. Point to it. Where is the elbow? This is my elbow and it hurts. When you tell a story, you can show me the meaning of the story by using your actions, using illustrations. So the butterfly maybe goes flying this way, but this is what a butterfly looks like. Show me what you mean. You can show me what you mean using music as well. Even in music, you can show me the classic song. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. You're repeating it so many times, and I'm seeing the actions. I'm linking it with the words. I'm understanding what that means. Oh, head, shoulders, knees and toes. When I can use it for sequence even, not just single words. When I go, this is the way we brush our teeth, up and down, left and right. You're learning a sequence of it as well. And I'm showing you what it means through the action, through the music. You're able to engage so much more of your brain in this learning process. So you can show me through actions, you can show me through the actual objects, show me through music that I love to pay attention to. And this is what Sing to Talk, an app that we developed at Summers Therapy Services, targets as well. It targets the power of music to engage the child in learning. So do check it out. We do update with different stories from time to time as well. So the thing here to take note is you want to show them what you mean via different means, visually, via actions, through music. So our takeaway points for today is the 6 stages of language development. Know which stage your child is at, and then move them up to the next stage according to their stage, not according to their age. All right. And then take note if there are anything to monitor, 3 months, give or take, according to the milestones. And of course, what we came here for, the 3 top tips: model language for them, wait and give them opportunities, and show them in different ways what you mean when you say something. All right. And that brings us to the end of our presentation section. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions that you want us to liaise with you and get back to you, please feel free to email us. We will now move on to our question and answer section. So let's go.
Hello everyone. Thank you Yvonne for the sharing, and thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you have gained some knowledge about the different language development, the 6 stages of language development, and also the 3 tips to help your child's language. So now we'll spend some time to discuss the questions that some of you have sent in. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. I would like to invite Yvonne to answer those questions. So one of the question is, my child can say 5 to 6 word sentences. For example, I want to eat apple, I want to play iPad. What should I work on next?
Okay, thank you for that question. So I'm hearing that the examples I'm hearing so far is I want to eat apple, I want to play prepared. So I would first look at, firstly, of course, we need to see what age your child is at also to get a rough idea. But then I will also want to hear what are the other sentences your child is saying, because what are the unique phrases that they are saying. So if it's always I want something, if I want the ball, I want the bottle, I want the bag, then the only thing that the child is actually saying that is different in those circumstances is actually that single word part of that statement. So they're actually chunking and memorizing that as one segment, I would say. So in that situation, I would want to look at your child maybe expanding to different kinds of sentences and looking at expanding the different ranges and different things that they can express about as well. So when we talk about communication, remember at the beginning we talked about communication and sending message from one person to another. So we look at the different kinds of messages you're sending also. Is it only I want something? So there are many different I would say different ways we can look at how to move on to the next stage. But one way would be definitely to look at expanding the different ranges, not just I want something all the time. Also, if they only want I want something, how many things are they asking as well? Then we look from there. Another way is also to look at the different ways that they are using it in daily life as well. I hope that roughly answers the question.
Yes, thank you for the answer. And the next question is, my child says a lot of things, but usually only sentences that he hears on YouTube videos. So how can I help him?
Only sentences heard on YouTube videos. So again, we come back to the idea of communication. Again, it's about sending a message from me to you. So when I commonly hear children when they are talking about memorizing phrases from YouTube videos or their favorite shows, there is this concept called echolalia that we need to be aware of. So there is immediate echolalia and delayed echolalia. So as the word echo means, the child is echoing what they have heard from a certain situation. So in that sense, I want to know why they're doing the echolalia. Is it they are trying to express the same meaning of what was being said? Is it they're trying to share the interest that this is what they are remembering now and they are thinking about this particular show now in their mind and they are replaying it verbally? So there are many different reasons and different ways that we can look at why they're doing that. So if your child is only doing echoing words that are being heard, then I would say use that to your advantage and use that to teach words in different contexts. So not just only the YouTube videos, since they are echoing what they hear, it tells me that your child is a very strong learner of models. So if you give the model, remember our first tip language, you T and give models. So the YouTube video is now doing the T and giving the language model that your child is actually picking up and using. So now we use that in daily context as well. So that it's not just in the YouTube video situation. In daily life, give them the model. So now you become the YouTube of daily life. So then they start to follow and echo what you are saying and learn that that is the language model I can use in this situation. Okay?
Thank you, Yvonne. One more question that says, my child is able to ask and answer all WH questions except for why questions. How do I help her?
Okay, so your child is currently answering all the WH questions except for why questions. So again, of course, I'll look at what is the age. We expect the why questions to be coming out around 2 to 3 to 4 years old. They can start answering and asking why questions already. So then again, look at what are the reasons they are not asking or answering why questions. Is it what kind of why questions we are asking them as well? There are easy why questions and sort of more abstract, harder why questions we can look at as well. So for example, if I spilled the milk and I say, oh, why is the milk on the floor? It is something that I can see and maybe it just happened a second ago. So that a situation like that would be easier for a child to answer why, because it's right there and it just happened, as opposed to yesterday I spilled the milk and I'm asking why was the milk on the floor yesterday. That may be harder for my child because I'm involving the time concept as well. So then I have to think about, oh, what happened yesterday, and the child may not even remember what happened there, and there's no cue. It may have already been cleaned up, so there's nothing to prompt the child to say, oh, because the cup was spilled over. And also then we can also have more abstract why questions, like why is the person feeling sad, or why is the machine moving so fast. So these are things that may not be so obvious to the child. The logic may not be that obvious to the child, and we can't show them exactly where or how to find the answer. So those are higher level why questions as well. So from the part of the adult, we look at what kind of why answers we're expecting from them, what kind of why questions we are asking them, and then also think about when we want to help them to answer why questions, start with things that are easier for them to answer. So questions that they can answer within the immediate surroundings, things that happened just recently only, not something that happened a while ago, something that you can point to them and remember. Our third tip, show them the answer that they can say. So you can incorporate that as well. And then as the first tip, as always, if they don't know what to say, model to them the answer. So if I'm asking you a question and you don't know how to say it, then I need to give you the model of the answer, so that the next time you hear this question, you know, oh, I can give an answer because the cup was broken, or because I dropped the cup, something along those lines. Okay.
There's two more questions. One question is similar to the previous one about answering questions. So the question is, why can't my child tell me what he did in school, and how can I help him?
Yes, this is a popular question. Parents often say, my child comes back from school and I don't know what happened. I have to interrogate, and until after interrogating, I still don't know what happened in school. So when we think about retelling what happened in an entire day, just like, for example, just now when we talked about the why question, we already talked about how recent the cause was, how recent the event was in helping the child to answer the question. So if it just happened, it's easier for them to answer as opposed to it happened a while ago. So when we talk about telling you what happened in my day, telling you what happened in school, firstly, the child needs to know which part of my day do you want to know about. There are so many things that could have happened, all the way from getting down from the bus, seeing my teacher, seeing my friend, I put down my bag, I saw my favorite toy, I went to the toilet, I had snack, I had a nap time. Which part of my day am I supposed to tell you about? There are so many events that happen, and what do I remember? Was it the last part of my day should I tell you about? And of course, when we talked about a time concept. It's usually at around age 4 that we start to develop a more mature sequencing ability for the children to be able to say, okay, this happened first, then this happened, and then this happened, and then that happened. So we need to moderate what we expect of our child as well. When we ask them to tell us what happened in a day, it is actually quite a tall order. We are asking them to tell us a sequence of many different things that happen. To us adults, we may feel like, it's quite obvious. You just tell me the things that's significant, the thing that is fun, like maybe what lesson you had. That is the way we have already organized as adults. But from the child's point of view, they may not know which is supposed to be salient, because everything is fun or everything happened as well. So there are many things we need to take into consideration when we like to ask our children, tell me what happened in your day. So there are many sequences to that. There are many things for a child to remember. And of course, the child needs to have the time concept as well as the language to be able to support that as well. Your child needs to be able to tell you beginning to the end, how to start a retell. I need to start a retell by telling you, oh, the first thing we did, after that we did, and then in the end this happened. So there are many things that we need to take into consideration when we're asking for a retell. So as to how or what is the next step, we really need to look at where your child is. So this is where I have to say, we do have to talk to your therapist and find out where your child is, so that we can find the best place to start moving your child up to the next stage in their retell skills. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I'm sure that answers the question, Yvonne. Very nice. Last one. My child can understand everything, and I'm using a few of the strategies mentioned here, but he's still not saying anything. What should I do?
First, pat yourself on the back. Good job. You're using the strategies already. Well done. So secondly is I need to know a lot more. So what do you mean by your child can understand everything? So again, remember when we were talking about the milestones, there is a difference between understanding things with cues and understanding things without cues. Also, what is the range of language your child is understanding, and again, what age, what are we expecting? Is your child at the communicator stage? Is your child at the least sentence user stage in terms of the age range? So that will lead us to have different expectations of what we are hoping your child to be saying now. So if your child is at the communicator stage, then I would say we work more on those skills and give more opportunities, use the 3 tips, and then start to get them to give them more opportunities to join in the conversation via turn taking. If you feel that your child is beyond that and you're thinking there may be some other issues, we do cover that in the next 2 days of our webinar, especially day 4 as well, where we talk about speech. So we will go into the mechanics of what is required for speech production. If you were here yesterday, we also spoke about what are some of the pre-verbal skills we need to have in our children before we expect verbalization and words to come out. So email us if you missed yesterday, and do stay tuned for day 4, where we do go into more detail about what is involved in speech production. And in the meantime, before your child is speaking, tomorrow's webinar, we talk about also the requirements for your child to communicate, whether or not the speech is in place yet. So tomorrow we do talk about what are some strategies we can use in those situations as well. So do join us. I would like to give you a short and fast answer, but I don't think that will do justice to your question. So do join us. We will go through in more detail tomorrow and the day after, and also write into us. We'll be keen to get in touch with you as well. All right.
Thanks, Yvonne. Yeah, as mentioned, we'll be covering more about the other ways of communicating rather than using speech tomorrow, and also about the physical part of using speech to talk on day 4. So do join us. And thank you those who have sent in your questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us. I'll be sending in the link in the chat box so that all of you can see that. So you can contact us at summerstherapyservices.com or send us a message through our Facebook page. So now I would like to pass on back to Hui Ting to make a special announcement.
Hey everyone, I hope you all enjoyed the webinar, the presentation, and have learned hits. Yeah, so before we go, I'm going to share with you again our summaries app. I think yesterday quite a few of you didn't get the name down. So that's the app, that's summaries. I hope you all see it now. Maybe Jane can help me type that in the chat box. Yeah, so this is an app that has got many summaries of research articles that we have written ourselves. It's for free to access all 50 articles this week. So there's this orange button that you can just press, and then all the articles are free to be accessed. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how clear you all can see it here. So do take a look. Yeah, just read it. We created this because we feel that there is many parents out there, professionals out there who are quite lost in the sea of information that is out there on the internet. When they Google, their child just got diagnosed with like autism, and they wonder like, what should I do with him? How can I help him? And they get quite lost, and there are many approaches out there, and quite a few are not evidence-based. So when they try something that's not evidence-based, there are a lot of people, businessmen who wants to make a quick buck out of all this situation. So it's heartbreaking to have all those experiences. So we came up with this. You read about what is concrete, factual, and you can make your choice, a better empowerment to decide what approach you want to use to help your child. Yeah. So that's it. That's all for today, and hope to see you all tomorrow when we'll talk about how we can help our child who are not having speech yet with augmentative and alternative communication. So anything from Yvonne and Jane before we log off? No, all good. Okay, so we'll still be around to answer some of the questions in the chat. Yeah, so that's all for now in our webinar. See you tomorrow. Bye.